Hey Photo World, real quick, I just wanted to apologize ahead of time here for the audio quality on today's episode. I thought that my recording device was doing okay on location while I was getting the YouTube video ready, but I made a major mistake and didn't put the pop filter on there when I thought it wasn't very windy, but apparently, listening back, you'll hear it. It seems quite intense with the wind, but hopefully you'll still get some great information out of today's episode.
TakeTalk.com. I'm Rob Kruger. This is episode 72 with our Fundamental Fridays. So today on Take Talk Pics, we are going to talk about the most popular compositional element that I can think of and that most photographers would tell you is true. It's called Rlue of Thirds. Basically, the Rlue of Thirds is a grid. And it has to do with the visual composition and how our eyes, or more so our brains, will react in how we see and the way we like to flow through an image. It creates a lot of strength, it gives a little bit more stability, it makes it easy to move through the image, and we feel more comfortable looking at it instead of resolving it quickly with something very center-happy and moving on and being done with it. So what we have here is actually a horizontal line or two. There's actually two here. So there's a baseline that actually you can see here in the video. It's pretty darn close here to our baseline as far as the way we set it up. And then you have a higher line there, which is just above those trees in the background. So what we have now, aside from that, is it's dividing up into three parts. We got one line, another line, we got three sections. They're actually evenly spaced. On the side note of that, we actually have two vertical lines as well. So there is one right here. I'm on it, and we tried to make sure that was framed up as well. Very strong as far as the Rlue of Thirds is concerned. And then there's another one right over here that will help kind of balance things out. When you see these intersections here, these 4 points on the grid, you actually see there's very strong points happening here. It's very easy to have the eye pull that way and notice what's in frame. So I set myself up on a pretty close to the intersection point for the Rlue of Thirds. But look at each rectangle. They're actually all the same size. It's really easy to move through this grid and set it up. So just for a simple shot here, I brought us out to these two barns out here, a little field, kind of nice paths to walk through prairies. It's a good spot, but there's not a whole lot going on. You know, we got the barns kind of setting up. I'm really offsetting for the Rlue of Thirds. I'm going to step to the side here and kind of frame this little tree in the foreground that we kind of see a little bit here and try to make that on a Rlue of Thirds line. So let me go ahead, take a quick shot here. So what I'm doing is, excuse my recording device in the way here. What I'm doing is I'm going to set up a nice little frame. Forget that, alright, and get ready for this. Frame up where I want that tree to be. I'm going to get a little more closely to the subject to create some drama. There you go. As you can see, I have it set up on the sideline there. Bring it up here with the grid on it. So we have it on that vertical line, and the horizon's actually pretty darn close. We have a few other compositional elements, because Rlue of Thirds is not the only one. In fact, there are tons of them. It's almost hard to even figure out how many there are or count them. You have lines, you have spirals, you have background, and the symmetry, asymmetry, balance. There are a ton of them. It really does go on and on. That's just a few for compositional elements. But the Rlue of Thirds is a really good basic one to kind of use for your photography, to place things on the grid, make it visually pleasing. And as we're looking at it, we can kind of see framing is another one in the picture I got here, just kind of going through the brush there a little bit. So we have that tree on that line. It's kind of a thin tree. It almost blends with the background a little too much, so it's not the greatest example. And then we have the barn in the background kind of offsetting, but you see that little space between the brush and the top of the silo there. So it's like just these little hints that kind of separate it and make it comfortable so there's not bad mergers, which is another thing we can go over in the future. There's just so many things to cover in photography. It's really, really saturated with a lot of information. And that's why this 3-day-a-week podcast is going to exist easily. So, Rlue of Thirds. You know what? I'm going to walk off camera real quick. I'll be right back and grab you a cool shot of another tree standing alone. So, I'll see you in a second. So I ran around a little bit. I got a few different things. There's just this awesome tree off to the side. It kind of creates a nice big open space with the field kind of surrounding it. And then I found these little, these tiny bugs on a plant here, and milkweed or something, and, you know, just tried to do a shot there. So let me run through a few of these. So one, the tree here, let me just make sure I'm keeping on task here in the right ones. So the tree, what we have going on is a really kind of cool shot of that tree to the, kind of gravitating towards the right side on that vertical line, or at least the trunk of the tree is following that, the majority of it, and then you see it splitting that line. So you have an intersection down below with the horizon on the bottom, and then you have an intersection with where the line on top would be, of still kind of hitting almost the center of the tree itself. So it's kind of interesting how that fits, and we got this nice foreground to kind of keep us busy a little bit, but then we have the background, just plain open sky with a little bit of texture. It's really cool and engaging and much easier to appreciate. When I switch over to this wide shot here, I stepped back and I got the tree right in the middle, and I have the horizon right in the middle. It's okay, but I feel like it's so simple. Anybody could walk up and go, what a great, cool, interesting, secluded tree all by itself, and go, okay, I'm going to point and I'm going to shoot. And it becomes very boring. You have this flatline horizon with equal non-existent, or non-important rather, a foreground, and then the background is just this even sky. Yes, it's got some texture and that's great, and the tree has some symmetry going on, which is also interesting. It doesn't do much. We kind of resolve it very quickly. We see, hey, there's a tree, it's in the middle, there's the horizon, cool, ground, sky, done. It's that quick. So let me flip back to the tree where we had just the more visual, engaging side of the Rlue of Thirds in play here, and we have this interesting angle which really helps. We have this great texture in the foreground, and the tree just shooting out of the middle of it here, or off to the side, and you kind of get this really cool presence of this tree that you could walk under there, and, who knows, maybe you have a little picnic out there. I don't know, it creates a story. It starts to engage you and create a story on what you get out of the scene. I'm going to switch over to these bugs. All right, so there's just this nice little group of 3 of them. Grouping, pattern, numbers, geometry, more compositional elements. It seriously is endless, I'm not kidding. And we're going to go over a few. I think next week we'll just expand upon a few of them with examples. And we have these little bugs. I don't know exactly what kind they are, so I wouldn't take me on that one at all. But we have a nice little group of 3 of them on the milkweed here. It's really cool. And then if you look in the lower right, kind of on another almost horizon, it's a little below, there's another one, kind of on this leading line of the leaf pulling you in. This shot has a lot going on for it. There was a ton of them on there, but I kind of zoomed in and I secluded a few. We have that group right on that little intersection, right? So we have that horizon on top, or at least the theoretical horizon, and that theoretical vertical on the left side, and they're intersecting in that spot. So we have a lot of information in a really interesting highlight spot for our composition. Going through the rest of it, there's a lot of negative space. Yes, it's in focus. Yes, we can see others happening, but it's just not as interesting as that group of 3. The odd number really plays into our favor. And it's just really awesome how Rlue of Thirds, something so simple, and all I did was follow the grid through my camera, just looking here and imagining those lines, and boom, I was able to capture something that's a little bit more engaging than, say, back to that tree where it's right in the middle, boring and stagnant through the center cut horizon. It's just a matter of taking it to the next level by slowing down for a split second and saying, I love this scene, I love this subject matter, now how can I make it so everyone would enjoy this? Put the Rlue of Thirds on it to start, and you can play with it. You can get the horizon line way up top, so you have a lot of foreground, a lot of grass for this instance to give you something interesting. But then you could do it the opposite like I did with a lot more sky. I like the fact that we have some texture today, and here in September out in Illinois, it's hit or miss. Sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't. And today's pretty nice and generous, and the polarizing filter helps a lot to bring that out. So we have this interesting texture, which was way better than just a boring flat grass for me. So I made that a good background to our centerpiece, the tree. And it's interesting because now we have this place, this space where here's the tree and our space where we can be, rather than back to this one, just everything in the middle. I can pick either side. It doesn't matter. There's nothing interesting. I mean, it's as interesting as a tree in a field. Okay, but we've seen it before. So, if we didn't have some amazing sunset happening, then this kind of thing just is resolved quickly. We move on. And our eye really relates to how we view images. If you start looking through magazines or online or driving down the road and you see billboards, look around. Images are everywhere. I mean, we're bombarded with them 24/7. So if you're looking at images, start to see the Rlue of Thirds on stuff. Start to see the decisions that people make. And if you find those ones that are breaking that rule, that aren't using the intersections, that aren't using the horizons or the verticals, and they're not following the Rlue of Thirds, start to understand why. it's usually something more than just a straightforward picture. It's the lighting that they're using. It's the subject matter that's very engaging. There are things that are playing into it, and we can get into compositional elements next week and expand upon it, but I really wanted to highlight the Rule of Thirds because it is a huge, huge help to your photography on a daily basis. Anytime you shoot, apply the Rule of Thirds. Slow down, take that shot. Take it again, move differently, and keep switching up your intersections. Keep switching your horizons and verticals, how you line it up with your subject matter, because you can make visually engaging work with just one rule, the Rule of Thirds. Don't feel bad if you break it, because you can still be successful with that as well. I'm Rob Kruger, TakeTalkPics.com. Make sure you get your free audiobook from TakeTalkBook.com, and you get a free month subscription to Audible. On top of that, subscribe to our channel. It's as easy as clicking a button and you're a part of it. You can get tuned in on a weekly basis to the Fundamental Fridays and anything else that we put up here. In a few weeks, I'm going to go through my camera bag and all of my equipment, but I'm going to do it a little different than just what's in my bag kind of video that you see from a lot of photographers. So I'll take you through that as well. Keep in tune with what we're doing and keep up on the podcast. Share with family, friends, other photo people out there, because the word needs to spread. And I've had a few people contact me. We just had an interview with Lee Holt with Holt Media Productions, and he contacted me to see if it would be good to do an interview. I did a little research on him, talked to him a little bit, and you know what? It was perfect for an interview, and we had some great stuff come out of it. So don't be shy, step forward, share your work, share your story, and get to know me. That's all I'm about here. I'm here for you, photo world, so let's keep in touch. I'm Rob Kruger. Happy shooting.